Well, good day and welcome on day 47, the very last day of our Lenten series. And our title today, of course, being Easter Sunday, Jesus is alive. And this is taken from Luke 24, verses 6 to 7. He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spoke to you when he was still in Galilee, saying, "The Son of Man must be delivered into the hand of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again." Well done if you've made it this far with these studies. Now, on the day that Jesus rose, 2 disciples decided to go to another village, a local village, Emmaus, and they were walking along discussing these events of what had happened, and they were joined by a stranger. He asked them what they were talking about, and so they explained, "Are you the only one that doesn't know what happened?" And they then told the stranger about Jesus and what happened to him, and that now the ladies had come and said that he had risen from the dead. And Jesus turned to them without revealing who he was and said this in Luke 24:25. Then he said to them, "O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory?" And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Today we have a little treat. A colleague of mine in Canada has written a poem, and that's been put to film. And I'm sure that you're going to enjoy this film. And so this is the story of that road to Emmaus and how those 2 disciples met with the risen Lord. The Lord bless you and enjoy the film.
We left Jerusalem about midday, avoiding travelers along the way, taking the road alone, dusty, dry, trying to escape that prying eye. We argued as we walked. What could it mean of Jesus and the miracles we'd seen, of stories we'd heard, of places we'd been, how a lamb could atone for one's own sin? Half in fear, half in hope, rehearsing his life, trying to cope. First we whispered, then we cried. You see, we were there when Jesus died. Then a stranger joined us unaware, his presence fresh like a gust of air. We gave no thought where he was from and took no interest in how he'd come. At first he spoke, not yet a word, but listened carefully as we conferred, as we discussed the day's events and all that Jesus was up against. The stranger then spoke, as in dismay. "Why do you dispute along the way?" Stunned, we said, "Didn't you see the throng, the trial, the crucifixion, the terrible wrong?" Discouraged beyond reason, our minds in a haze, Cleopas asked, "Where have you been the last 3 days? Did you just arrive? Are you a visitor in town?" Have you not heard the news buzzing around? What news? The stranger said, his face unseen. Cleopas replied, about Jesus, the Nazarene. He was powerful in action, in speech before God, a man of his word without deceit or fraud. But then, the priests, the leaders of our land, they sentenced Jesus by popular demand. They nailed him to a cross. He was crucified. It was there on that tree he actually died. We grieve, for we had hoped that he was the one who would redeem Israel when things were all done. Instead, he was buried in a tomb. It's now the third day. It seemed all over, so we planned to travel this way. But then, today, some women we know astounded us. They arrived at the tomb early to avoid any fuss. They went with spices, as is custom to do. But they found not his body or anyone else they knew. They claimed to see a vision of angels there, who said Jesus was alive and don't despair. Men went to the tomb to take a look. They found him not and returned rather shook. And then the stranger spoke, as one would grieve. He spoke of things we knew, things we believe, but he cast a fresh light on heart and mind, rebuked us for being so deaf and blind. He said, "O foolish men and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and enter his glory as is fitting with kings?" Then starting with Moses, at the front of the scroll, he taught through the prophets, he spoke to the soul. He explained God's Lamb, using all of Scripture, and helped us see Jesus in the overall picture. Finally, we came to Emmaus, our native hometown. It was late in the day. The sun was almost down. It seemed the stranger was traveling on, so we urged him, stay the night until the dawn. As we ate our meal, he broke the bread. In an instant, we saw Jesus, no longer dead. Our eyes were opened, but then he was gone, the one to whom our hearts had been drawn. Were not our hearts burning, we both exclaimed, as we traveled the road and Jesus was named? The scripture made sense as never before, and something inside came alive with a roar. We left the same hour in the city to find the followers of Jesus in a new frame of mind. Simon uttered words unheard before. "Jesus, I've seen. He's alive evermore." Then we told of the one we'd met that day and the message he gave us as we traveled the way. We told of seeing Jesus alive from the dead and how we knew him in the breaking of bread. And as in our excitement we spoke of his being, one stood in our midst of whom we were speaking. Jesus appeared, the one raised from the dead. We were torn with terror and almost fled. But then Jesus spoke. "Peace be with you," he said. "Why are you troubled? Why do you dread? Look, my hands, my feet. It's me you see, with flesh and bones from death now free." Then he opened our minds to understand how Scripture showed that it was planned, that Moses, the prophets, the Psalms declared, Messiah must die, to a lamb compared. And from that day there arose in our breast a powerful fury never laid to rest, to tell all others, Jesus lives today. God came as a lamb, our sin debt to pay.
Friend, truly Jesus is alive. So keep your eyes on Jesus. The Lord bless you, and thank you for joining us on this Lenten series. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Till we meet again.